Hey, Johnnie Roberts, welcome back to another great episode of your podcast. How are you doing today, sir?
Doing great, man. It's beautiful weather here in Michigan.
Yep,
Oh, so nice,
Michigan.
man. So
I
nice.
bet. Summertime in Michigan. That's what you know what I think of then. I think of big honking mosquitoes. 'Cause that's what I think of in Michigan is smacking mosquitoes. Now, especially when you got like a pool in your backyard and things, it's got to be like a mosquito factory, doesn't it?
It is, but we have this mosquitoes. Honestly, we use this mosquito spray place, which is
Yeah,
awesome. So, if you want to know who they are, shoot me an email.
that's
I'll
okay.
tell
All
you.
right.
But man, they help a lot. I mean,
That's
yeah, you can't go outside
you, you,
um,
you, you,
without that.
you can't, and they are unwelcome guests. You know, when you're outside having a barbecue, swimming in the pool, mosquitoes are unwelcome guests anywhere in my life. But you today, you actually have a welcome guest. Okay, you didn't bring a mosquito to your episode today. You brought somebody more powerful than that, right?
I did. So I'm going to introduce this guy. His name is Steve Ahonen, man. Steve has been friends for years. He is a Medicare specialist. He even works with several different firms. Ours is one of those. We refer everybody to Steve when we get involved with Medicare health insurance. Steve has been doing this so long. He was doing Medicare when I was playing with Star Wars toys. I mean, it's amazing the wisdom he has. So, without
Okay.
further ado, I'm going to introduce our Medicare guy, the specialist, the best that I've ever met in this industry, and a great man too. Steve, how are you doing today?
Exceptionally blessed. Thank you for all the accolades, none of which are true, by the way, but keep going.
And you know what? You started a little after I was playing with Star Wars toys. You're not that old and doing this, Steve, but you've been doing it a long time. How long you been doing Medicare health type things?
Well, I started in, I'll just say, health insurance and disability insurance 30 years ago is a comfortable number. Then I started focusing on the under 65, which was prior to the market, well prior to the Affordable Care Act or Marketplace. And then about 10 years ago, yeah, about 10 or 12 years ago, I started to focus on Medicare. And my, if I may, the hesitation in moving into the Medicare space was cue the laugh track. I didn't want to deal with all those old people. And if you look at what's left of my hair, I'm 64. I'll be 65 in January, so I'm well aware of how all this works because I'm dealing with it myself. So about 30 years in total, John.
Yeah, a long time, a lot of wisdom. And on a personal note, Steve handles our insurance. Any family members that I have, I trust him with everybody that I know personally and love, as well as all of our clients. So, it's certainly phenomenal. And Steve, I do obviously retirement planning. We've been doing this podcast for a while. One of the things I do touch on a little bit, very small amount, is Medicare when I'm doing some of our classes and seminars that we do. But when people get into it, I definitely point them your direction, obviously. But man, there's a lot to it, Steve. And what a lot of questions, a lot of concerns. There's so many different avenues to Medicare. We're going to go over a few episodes in a row here with you. And so we're so appreciative of that. But tell me some of the biggest things that you're hearing people are concerned about, some of the biggest struggles that people have with Medicare, maybe some of the problems or the wrong choices. What are you seeing out there when you're dealing with people that are like, Steve, I don't know what to do. What are my choices? That kind of thing. What are you seeing out there like that?
Man, misinformation highway. It's just, I don't think people are, generally speaking, nefarious, meaning I don't think our seniors are talking to a whole bunch of bad people. I don't think it's as much that as there's information coming from so many different resources, and to be able to digest and hold on to that information, process it in a usable way, is to me is it's even complex for me, and I know the material, I know it very well. But there's changes every year. There are subtle changes, and even if the plans and the benefits and Medicare itself didn't change, we as people and as consumers change. Our needs change. Our medications change. Our doctors change. The way we treat illness changes. Technology changes. So you have to have an agent or an advocate who's on the ball and willing to commit the time and dedicate the time to treat each client uniquely. and it's almost, I don't want to say trite, but it's really that important. I say to my seniors all the time, and I have lots of them, it's the most important insurance you'll ever have. Without a doubt it is. And the reason it is, it needs to last you the rest of your life. And as we age, typically, we visit doctors more. We visit hospitals more. Things happen, chronic conditions. We can be in the best of health one day and be in the hospital the next. And that likelihood increases with age. So yeah, I as silly as I can be, and Johnny, you've known me for many years, I take this subject matter extremely seriously. And there are a lot of details that need to be viewed. So I think people, seniors as a whole, do a phenomenal job doing the research. Most of them come to me and they know their ABCs and Ds, if you will, of Medicare. But there's so much more to it than that. And there's a lot of rules, and you don't want to get hit with any fines or penalties from the government, because when you do, they are for life. They're very hard to remove. So sorry about that rambling answer. Go ahead, Jay.
No, that's awesome. And one of the things that we talk about when I'm especially dealing with retirement is Medicare is one of the pillars of that, because it can definitely affect your retirement income, right? You just mentioned things like penalties and fees. That's another word for taxes, right? I mean, that's what it is. Like, we're going to do something to you. It sounds penalties and fees, but hey, it's a way to tax it if you do something wrong, which can affect, man, how much money you're going to get rest of your life. One of the things I always say, and I'll let you take over, is you want to maximize income, minimize taxes. If you make wrong choices with Medicare, it's going to take from your income, and it's going to have you pay a little bit more in taxes or penalties or fees, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So planning, believe it or not, I mean, and people say, what do you mean planning for Medicare? When I turned 65, whoa, 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 whoa. Income, the amount of adjusted gross income, or what's showing as your adjusted gross income, can very well affect what you pay for Medicare, specifically Part B as in boy and Part D as in David. Those two parts, there's someone, I call her, I want to be fair about this. There's a section of the CMS, which is Center for Medicare Services, also known as Medicare, section of their code that has something to do with IRMA, IRMAA. IRMA. IRMA stands for Income Related Monthly Adjustment Amount, and she is a nasty, nasty person. So IRMA looks at your adjusted gross income for the 2 prior tax years filed. And if it exceeds certain amounts, you will pay more for Part B and Part D. You need to know in advance, I'll say at least 2 years in advance, at least 2 years in advance. You need to start planning, if possible, or at least keeping an eye on the income that you show. And if there are buckets of income that can be deferred or delayed until after retirement, that's probably a better thing, or after turning 65, or to take, the proper, if you will, the proper amounts, if there are some degrees of adjustability there, so that you're not overpaying, being penalized by IRMA. So yeah, that's one tiny thing, John, that could be huge. I'll give you an example. Part B Medicare premium. The base premium for Part B is $185 a month. If your adjusted gross income exceeds that, it exceeds their guidelines, and I'll say this year jointly, AGI, adjusted gross income, if it exceeds I believe it's 217,000, you will pay more for your Part B. Now that doesn't sound huge, but I have clients right now for Part B that are paying over $500 a month. Now double that for a spouse. Were they planning on paying $1,000 a month just in Part B premiums, not to mention supplements, prescription drug plans? Or listen, this is serious stuff. You need to know the numbers. You need to know the timing.
And it stacks up, Steve. Let me jump in here. It
Yeah.
stacks up very quickly because if you're not planning for it, things like this. I mean, I don't recall like the government saying, "Hey, by the way, this is a new Irma thing. You need to figure this thing out." Right? It kind of just happens. And recently I was at an Ed Slott event, and Ed Slott, studies the tax code. They had an entire section of their training around Irma
Yeah.
and all of the impact this is going to have on people because most people A, don't even know about Irma, and B, they haven't planned properly. And that's why Johnny uses you and you're part of his team, is to help those clients understand how do we help you keep more of that money with all of these
Right.
changes that happen over and over and over again, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Trying it again, some people don't have the flexibility or adjustability in income, but a lot of them do. So here's what happens. People will retire. Yeah, I worked the last 20 years, and the last 2 years or 3 years were my highest earning years. Fairly common. I run into that a lot, or very high, if not the highest. And I'll say, well, that's great, but you're signing up for Medicare now. So what happens when that main income stream from your employer shuts down? Well, I have this stream of income, I have Social Security, et cetera. But what you're saying, what I'm hear you saying, Mr. Klein, is it possible that that income of 200,000 or whatever it's going to be is going to be half that now? And they say, yeah. So then what we do, there's a document called, there's all these numbers and acronyms. Sorry, guys. It's government, right? I believe it's an SSA 44. That's a form that I can help you fill out that you can submit to Social Security and or CMS and have them review your projected or expected income for, let's say, the next year when you're not earning what you were earning prior, and we can have that, they don't call it a penalty, that surcharge from Irma either adjusted or completely eliminated. I've been very successful with that document and that approach. But planning is the key. Planning is, and you know what? It costs nothing to have a conversation or send some emails or visit. I encourage all people who are getting ready to age in to Medicare or accept Medicare. Maybe they're still working. Johnny, that's another thing that we've talked about a lot. A lot of people are working beyond 65. So now what are the requirements? Do I have to have Part B? Do I have to have Part A? There's a whole show or subject matter just on that. When to enroll and why. It's go ahead.
This is so complex. I want to jump onto that question in the next episode. When do I apply and why and all of that? Because I'm sitting here. Yeah, I mean, my retirement date for me, because of what I do, is about 72. Because I love what I do, and it's mental mostly. And so I'm sitting here going, yeah, I probably don't need Medicare, but what maybe I do. So I've got some questions that I want to talk about, and it's going to take us a lot longer. So I want to do another episode. But I think, Johnny, what I want to do is just bring this back home to go the importance of planning, of having a conversation with you and your team, because when you talk with Johnny, you get Steve, because Steve's on Johnny's team and they work together. And that's how Johnny's built his whole practice, to have conversations like this, to answer those questions and introduce you to Aunt Irma that you didn't even know you had, that she's there with her greedy little paws. But there are ways to, disinherit her a little bit, maybe. But every situation is unique. And so without sitting down with Johnny. So Johnny, is that a fair thing to
Yeah, I think when you're doing something important and trying to win for people, use a sports analogy. If you're the Detroit Tigers, you only have a pitcher, and that's it. No outfielders, no nothing. You're not going to win. But what we try to do, and I think it's important for people, is to realize, man, having a team to cover all the bases, and it's great being able to team up with people like Steve and someone helps with taxes and some other issues we do, because you can't win in retirement unless you have a whole team, a whole group of people that are trying to work for you and help you. And so, man, it's great to have, and we're going to go in a few more episodes, absolutely, because Steve is awesome. We'll talk about the alphabet soup of Medicare, right? All the A, B, blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
So he fills the gaps that I don't have. I'm not an expert in Medicare. I know enough to be, I don't want to use the word dangerous, but I know enough to get a little information. But man, having a teammate like that, someone that I can turn to and say, hey, help this person, is amazing. So, Steve, real quick, how Mrs. Smith needs to get a hold of you, how do they do it? How do they find you? Obviously, I would give them your number, but they're just listening to this right now and they're like, I got to talk to this guy. What do they do? How do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest thing to do is to call me. It really is. I'll give you my email address after this, but my phone number is 248-672-0556. And my email address is just my name, Steve, Steve, last name Ahonen, spelled Ahonen. That's Nancy, Edward, Nancy, at gmail.com. One of those two ways. Phone's always on, email's always open. And if not, if for some reason either of those two fail, just call Johnny directly.
That's
Johnny
right.
will get a hold of me, and he's been excellent at doing that over the last number of years.
Yeah, you can always go directly to the website to retirednewheights.com.
Yeah.
There's a link in there for contact, and we'll definitely get you in touch with Steve. So
That's awesome.
first episode here of this series. Man, there's a lot to cover.
Yeah, we talked about Aunt Irma. She was the big star, really, in my mind. Next time, we're going to go in about when should we apply for it and things of that nature. This is probably going to be a mini series the way I'm seeing it. So, Steve, thanks for your time. We'll come back here in just next week. And Johnny, always good to be with you, buddy.
Thank you, sir. Thanks.
Thank you,
Steve.
gentlemen.